Well, a very good morning to the second MotoGP test of 2016 here in Phillip Island. As you can see behind me, we've already got some of the bikes warming up, and I don't know if you can see, but it is a little bit wet, unfortunately, which brings us straight on to the first topic that we want to talk about, tyres. Of course, Michelin coming in as the tyre supplier. This is going to be a very important test for them. This kind of surface we have here right now might give them a chance to test the intermediate. If it gets wetter, they might even need to test those wet tyres, something which they've told us they actually do want to do. But I'm sure the thing most of you are going to be wondering about is what's happened since this incident with Loris Baz in Sepang. For those that don't remember, he crashed at 290 kilometers an hour down the main straight, and there's talk that it was potentially some kind of fault with the rear tyre. Now, of course, coming to Phillip Island is one of those tracks that is extremely harsh on the rear. It's actually one of the harshest on the MotoGP calendar. So a lot of talk about what Michelin has brought here, and of course, what about the front? Because the front, we only have 4 right-hand turns, and it's quite easy for the riders to lose the front, especially if it gets a little bit cool. So again, another real vital area that Michelin needs to work on. But rather than me tell you about all these different things, we're going to speak with Michelin's Nicolas Goubert. Nicolas, back in Phillip Island after Sepang, obviously Sepang, many things happened. I think the first thing that we do have to ask is, what's the current development on the situation that we had with Loris Baz and the rear tyre? Have you made any headway in Clermont on finding out what the issue was?
No, not yet. I mean, it's still in investigation, and we should come up with results of the analysis before Qatar test. So definitely within a couple of weeks, we'll have some more information.
So in terms of that, people are now going to wonder, what have you brought to this test? Has what happened there affected your tyre selection for here in any way?
What happened there was very important regarding the front tire, because as you know, we've been trying to come up with a good solution, good technical solution for the riders on the front, and riders have been quite happy quite quickly. I would say very quickly with the rear tires, but they were not very happy with the front. And for the first time in Sepang, which was actually only the second official test for us, I mean, they were really keen on the new front tire profile we brought there. So that's really the key performance we are keeping in mind from Sepang test. And of course, because the results were very good, then we made everything possible to come up here with that new profile again. So we've got only a couple of tires for each rider, because most of the tires will be based on the previous profile. But because it worked very well in Malaysia, then we made a couple for each rider, and they should be able to test them starting from maybe the day after tomorrow, and most of them will test on the last day, I guess. So that was for the front. Now for the rear, that track is very specific, because you've got a lot of left-hand corners on which the bike stays on the angle for a very long time. I mean, the last corner must be about around 13-15 seconds, and the third corner must be the same. So it's a lot of strain on the rear left tires, and on the other side, on the right, it's only a few corners. And when you come back for the race, in October time, it can be quite cold. So it's quite difficult to find the right, I would say, combination between the left-hand side of the tires, which has to be really robust, and then the right-hand side, which has to get temperature very quickly. So it's always a big challenge here to have the right tires for the riders.
Speaking about this challenge of the left and the right-hand side of the tyre, how do you face that with the front tyre? Will the front tyre have one single compound, or will you also be mixing compounds on the front?
So right now we have only one single compound. As you know, I mean, we've been out of the series for many years. So we came up with different level of compounds, different rigidity of the compounds for the front here, and we'll try to find one suitable, and we'll see if we need a dual compound at the front as well. If we do need it, then we'll come up for the race with a solution like that. But for right now, I mean, decision has not been made.
Finally, Nicolas, the weather report, it's not quite looking as nice as we would hope. However, I think this might almost play in your favour a little bit. I mean, temperatures are supposed to be a little bit cooler these 3 days. Could that be good to actually simulate October a bit more?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would be perfect. If the temperature stays about like it is now, in the 20s, because as you said, it's similar to what we'll get during the race. And then if we get rain as well, we'll be very happy, because up to now we've been able to test only one day at Brno, in August, and only a few riders, only 2 or 3 riders did some testing on the wet. So we are desperate to get some track time on the wet track and to see all the guys coming out and to give us information on the wet tires.
Well, as you guys can see, we finally have a bit of action out on track. Yes, it did take a little bit of time here in Phillip Island. But finally, it was Danny Pedrosa, the last man to win a wet race. He was the first guy to head out on track with those wet Michelin tyres. Michelin had said, look, we really want someone to actually try them out. So it was Danny Pedrosa out first, then we had Cal Crutchlow, Tito Marquez, the real Hunter Brigade going out, giving it a good test. Then it was Scott Redding, and then other riders started following suit like Polo Espargaro and Maverick Vinales. And as we look down pit lane, we're starting to see the Yamaha go out on track now. Real promising stuff for Michelin. Also good for the riders that they feel comfortable that they can go out on this track and get a bit of this testing time in, not just for the tyres, but also they need to see how these new electronics work in the wet. And fingers crossed, you might be able to see now we're getting a few rays of sun coming through the clouds, so with any luck it'll dry up and we should have a bit more action on track later on this afternoon. But for now, we'll leave you with a little bit of track action that we've already had so far.
First day of the official Phillip Island MotoGP test was hit by some rather mixed weather. Heavy rain in the morning meant that only a handful of riders headed out on the new Michelin wet tyres, and by lunch it started to clear, but just when it was getting dry enough for slick tyres, the heavens opened once more. Luckily, the sun would come out towards the end of the day, and this allowed riders to head out on track during the last 90 minutes to an hour to get some dry track time, with the mixed conditions throwing up some surprising results, including only 3 factory riders making it into the top 10. Proving that his pace in Sepang that saw him finish second on the combined times was no fluke, Danilo Petrucci led the way with a 1:31.764 on the Octo Pramac Yaknik GP 14.2, which saw him lead the rest of the field by a whopping 0.719 seconds. The GSX-R of Maverick Vinales was in second as Suzuki aimed to try and eke the full power out of the new engine that they debuted in Sepang, and there was no fully seamless gearbox for the factory riders, with just a test rider getting to try out here in Phillip Island, with Vinales and Espargaro getting their hands on it in Qatar. Just 1/10 back from Vinales in third was Monster Yamaha Tech 3's Bradley Smith. The British rider is effectively on the bike the factory Yamaha riders rode last year, and he impressed again as he put in 27 laps. His compatriot Scott Redding ended the day in fourth, 1.1 seconds behind his Octo Pramac Yaknik teammate Petrucci, as both of their Ducatis finished inside the top 4. Redding completed the most amount of laps of any rider as he managed 41 laps in the mixed conditions. LCR Honda's Cal Crutchlow carried on where he left off in Sepang as he got his hands once more on the hybrid engine for the RC213V to finish as the leading Honda. He was only 0.08 of a second behind Redding as he made it 3 Brits inside the top 5. Movie star Yamaha MotoGP's Valentino Rossi was the lead and alien as he ran the new 2016 M1 chassis back-to-back with the hybrid one they debuted at Sepang. Rossi ended the day 1.3 seconds off the pace of Petrucci in 6th as he completed 27 laps, but was 6.7 seconds ahead of his teammate Lorenzo. Now let's just have a little look through the rest of the standings, and you can see they're completing the top 9. Jack Miller, who impressed on his return from injury, only completing 6 laps, but setting 8 times fast enough for 9th. While Andrea Iannone, he was the leading factory Ducati rider in 10th. Marc Marquez down in 12th as he used 2 chassis back-to-back with the new RC213 2016 engine, while Lorenzo and Pedrosa didn't improve on the times they set in the wet and finished down at the bottom of the timesheets. And as you can see, Dovizioso, Barbara Bass and Hiroshi Ayama, the Honda test rider, didn't complete the lap.
Well, day one here at Phillip Island is proving to be a little bit frustrating, not just for the riders and the teams, but I'm sure also for the fans who are eagerly watching those timing screens, because it's been dry, then it's been wet, then it's been dry again, then it's been wet. We've never really had prolonged periods of just one single type of condition, but there have been questions coming in saying, look, why aren't these guys out there all the time? Because you've got wet tyres, now we have intermediate tyres, and of course slick, so you'd imagine that you'd have something for every single condition. Well, rather than us try and tell you, we've caught up with a couple of crew chiefs who are going to explain why. Okay, Nicola, well, as we said, you know, we're trying to understand on this day of very mixed conditions why we don't have track action all the time, especially now that we have this intermediate tyre from Michelin. Maybe you can help us understand that.
Yeah, we'll have some tests in Sepang with Bradley. It was the only tyre to test the intermediate tyre. They really look like slick tyres, and at the moment, as soon as you hit, let's say, a wet patch, then the bike tends to spin a lot. So, and it's already taking a lot of risk. We have to also consider that the season is going to take place within 1 month, more or less. So it's taking a lot of risk to exit in the intermediate. Let's say if we really have to race, then we'll take the risk to go in the intermediate. But to test something on the bike is for us is pointless.
So how difficult is it for you here at Phillip Island? Obviously, when it rains a lot, the track is very wet. You can use wet tyres, but at which point do you say it's now too dry? Because it does seem to dry very quickly.
Yeah. Here is really specific. The track is quite hot, even in the wet condition, and it's really windy, so it dries really quickly. We saw this morning a couple of bikes outside. When it's completely wet, there's a point to work. Then I mean, the conditions are constant, and there's something to work with. As soon as you start to have some dry patches or wet patches area, mixed condition, there's no really point to work on the bike. So it's more rider ability to adapt to the condition rather than working on the bike.
Finally, when you do run in the wet conditions, is this helping you, especially maybe with the electronic development? Do you give any feedback to Michelin? How is the wet tyre?
Especially here is really important to test. We have the electronic. We have no idea about the electronic under the wet condition, and as well as the tires. So this morning, a couple of bike exit, and the tires looks okay. The behavior is quite different compared to the Bridgestone, and the rider, they have to be used to with this new feeling, and so tires point of view is not a ban, and on electronic there's quite a lot to do. So it was important this morning. We exit. We found some problems, we found some solutions, but there's still a lot of work to do. But with these conditions, mixed condition, there's nothing to do. Right now it looks like dry, but there's some rivers on the track, and you can't exit on slick tire as well as on wet tire. So it's mixed condition, there's nothing to do.
Manuel, thank you very much for taking some time to talk to us now. We're trying to understand, with all these mixed conditions now, we have 3 different types of tyre, but not many people are going out on track. Why is there so much uncertainty?
As you said, there is very mixed conditions and they are changing really fast because of the wind. So when it rains, it gets wet, but then gets dry again very quick. We have the new intermediate, but for example, in our case, we are not 100% ready with electronics to try it, so we prefer to wait.
Have you learned anything running in the wet conditions here?
Yeah, we checked the new software for the first time. With Maverick, it was first time also with Michelin rain tires. First impression, not so much.
Lots of people, they were thinking, right, Michelin's coming in now, they're going to give us this intermediate tyre, which means we should have track action all the time, but I think that's been a bit of a misunderstanding. Maybe you can help clear that up.
Well, we are not used so much to reuse again intermediate tires. We've done before, but sometimes intermediate tire is like maybe not really, not really useful. Sometimes we prefer to go or dry or wet. Intermediate, yes, you can go out, for example, could be qualifying time, then you need maybe to ride anyway. This is the best tire for that moment. But I feel that tire maybe is not really interesting. But anyway, in this condition, if somebody wants to learn something, you can go. And we have done already a test with the nylon, and actually that time was basically wet track with intermediate tire, and I can say the time was quite good. So, but it is a choice of the team. Want to take a risk or not? You want to learn something or not? We decided this time don't take too many risks.
So Danilo, not many laps, but fastest again, like in Sepang.
Yeah. Today I thought that we were not able to ride because for the weather was not so good. But we in our plan there was to riding under the weather, but tomorrow. And today we didn't expect the dry condition, but at the end the track was dry, even if it was windy a lot. But was at the end only a few laps, but was important because there are many differences between last year. I had a completely different bike, and especially the tires are so different, and so we have to change the balance of the bike. But anyway, was good to ride some laps here. It's always special to ride here in Phillip Island.
And what is going to be the plan for tomorrow?
For tomorrow we had to try this new balance of the bike, and then we keep on working on the bike and on the tires. We wanted to do some longer run, about 10 laps, but Bridgestone, Michelin, sorry, say to do not over 15 lap time, so half of the race. But anyway, we have a lot of work to do, and we hope for tomorrow the weather will be better than today.
Well, Maverick, very strange testing day today, but you did get a chance to ride in the wet. What was your feeling like with the Suzuki?
Good. I was feeling really good. Always I feel good in this track. But anyway, I was feeling good. The new electronic on the wet was quite good. I think from Malaysia we did one step more on the electronic. Anyway, strange day. I mean, difficult to push and difficult to ride many laps. Anyway, I think we need to wait for tomorrow for understand better if we make one step or not. But today the feelings was good.
When you raced here last year, you didn't have the seamless. Now you can go up through the gears with the seamless. Do you notice a big difference?
Yeah, for sure it is. On the rain makes a really big difference. You know, when you need to shift, make the short shift on the straight makes big difference.
Nicola, difficult conditions for the riders today, but at least they get to try the wet tires.
Yeah, difficult condition, but as you said, I mean, it was a great opportunity for them to test the tires, the wet tires. For most of them, you know, they have not tried the Michelin wet yet, so it was a very good opportunity. And actually, as it was, you know, wet and most of the time wet for, I would say, 3/4 of the day, we got some quite many laps on the tires. And I mean, the guys are quite happy and quite confident, so it's a very good result for us.
And at the end of the day, they get to go with slick also. What did you bring here?
So for the slicks, you know, Phillip Island is very specific track because you've got a lot of left-hand corners with the bike staying on the